This video is brought to you by Minwax. Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Chris, and in this video, I'm gonna turn this piece of firewood into this beautiful hand-carved bowl. And I also made a bonus one out of walnut. But in order to do that, we need to go back in time a little bit and gather some green firewood. A couple weeks ago, a silver maple tree broke off into the river on our property, and maple is a good bowl carving wood, so I'm gonna go see if I can get a usable section from that fallen tree. And while I work on that, I wanna talk about this project a little bit and this video's sponsor, Minwax. So last year, I got contacted by Minwax to try some of their new colored wood finishes and build a project with them. So I created my Work Hard, Stay Humble sign that's in my shop, and it holds my grandpa's hand plane. And in that project, I used their solid and semi-transparent colored stains for it, and I really liked how it turned out. And so this year, Minwax contacted me again to participate in a new challenge called Pattern Play, where I would need to incorporate patterns or cool textures into the project. Now, I've been wanting to hand carve some bowls for a while now, and I thought that with my gouges, I could create some cool patterns and textures to use with the Minwax stains for this challenge. Okay, so now that the log is freed from the river, I'm going to take it back over by my firewood pile and see if I can't find a nice, straight, not free section to carve this bowl out of. So here I'm using a froe and a piece of firewood to split this chunk of maple. I lined it up on a small natural split in the pith or center of the log and drive in the edge of the froe. A lot of people will just use metal splitting wedges, but I don't have any, so had to use the froe. Once I opened up the split a little, I was able to use my plastic felling wedges to help along that crack. Once I have my log split in two, I'm going to use my hatchet to flatten out the bottom the best I can and also remove the bark. Then I took the blank inside and started using my scrub plane to remove enough material on the bottom of the bowl to remove the pith, and then I used my number 6 plane to get it nice and flat. Next, using a compass, I'm going to draw out some nice curves on both ends of the blank and then go back to my scrub plane to work down to those lines. Now, a scrub plane is a plane that has a really heavy camber on the blade and a wide open mouth so that you can aggressively remove material. Now I need to lay out the oval opening of the bowl and its overall shape. For the hollow of the bowl, I'll be using a bowl adze. Now that I've done the bulk of the work with the adze, I can move over to finish work with the gouges. I use a large sweep bent gouge to do the sides and then a spoon gouge for the bottom. The bends in these gouges allow you to work easily on the inside curve of bowls and spoons. Now that I have the inside of the bowl finished, I can start shaping the outside. First, I lay out an oval-shaped base and then begin chopping away the material with my hatchet. Now that I've removed as much material as I feel comfortable with the hatchet, I'm going to begin refining the shape with a draw knife. One of the biggest challenges of carving bowls is holding them down with their odd shape, so I started out trying to hold the bowl with my regular bench, and it definitely wasn't ideal, so I came up with this attachment for my bench that ended up working really beautifully. So here's this attachment that I came up with. I was actually laying in bed thinking about this work holding problem when the idea came to me, and it works on the same principle as the bowl carving benches that I've seen, where you step on what is essentially a lever to squeeze and hold your work firmly in place between that lever and a stopping block. The main difference is that you sit on those carving benches like a shave horse so that you're working nice and comfortably, but this worked out really well too. Next, it's just a lot of back and forth, working on different areas of the bowl and sneaking up to that final shape. This was very slow and careful work. I would take some material off, then set the bowl on a shelf at about eye level, then walk back across the shop and get a good look at it. Then I'd be able to see where I needed to remove material, and then repeat this step dozens of times until I got the shape that pleased my eye. Once the outside of the bowl has the shape that I like, I'm going to go back and start adding some texturing. For under the handles, I'm going to go with some long, elegant fluting that's going to comfortably match up with my fingers when I pick the bowl up. And on the rest of the bowl, I'm going to use my gouges to give it that cool hand-carved texture. For the outside of the bowl, I use straight shank gouges, and I used a couple different gouges with different radiuses of sweep. I use a different gouge on each side of the maple bowl and a really aggressive gouge on the walnut bowl. This project was really about experimenting for me and trying some new ideas and techniques, so I had fun trying different things out, and I think both the shallow and aggressive gouges looked really good. Now that I'm finished carving the bowl, it's time to head to Lowe's to pick out some stain for this. I wanted to play around with some colors on these bowls, and Minwax offers these really cool colored stains. There's over 200 colors you can choose from in their display booklet, or you can get it custom colored to almost any other color out there. You may be asking, why not just use regular paint? Well, for raw natural wood like this, these colored stains sit closer to the wood and soak in better than paint, which means that you can really see the grain and the texture of the wood underneath a lot better. And in this case, the tooling marks from the carvings really stood out sharply. These finishes are specifically designed to use on raw wood and furniture, and it really does make a difference. The stain hardens up a lot better than latex paint too, and if you've ever tried sanding paint, it instantly gums up sandpaper because of how soft and plasticky it is, and the ability to sand finish is really important in woodworking so that you can add a protective top coating, like polyacrylic in this case, as these are water-based finishes. With these water-based finishes, I always start with a Minwax pre-stain, which is going to help the grain from raising and also helps with blotching. After that dries, it's time to add the stain. I decided to add color just to the underside of the handles and the inside of the bowl. Because of the shape of the flutes, I took a small foam brush and cut a curve in the tip of it to get the curves and not get stain on areas that I didn't want it. Now on flat surface projects, it's best to use a paintbrush or these paint pads that Minwax recommends, and I'll show you one of those later on. This stuff dries really quick, so you have to be careful and do small sections at a time and make sure you don't leave too much material on. You want to pull all the excess off. I made the decision at first to stain the top of the bowl rim. After it dried, I added some chamfers to the bowl to see how I liked that. Well, I didn't really love the look of the stain on top of the bowl, so I used my spoke shave to remove it again, and because this finish dries so nice and hard, it was really easy to remove. I'm gonna experiment. One thing I was gonna attempt to do was bring some of the edging out, come through with, and just see how that looks. So, you know what? I'm actually, that definitely, I like that more. Whew. Sometimes you gotta take risks. Let's keep going. Now to finish these bowls, I'm going to give them 3 coats of polyacrylic. I really like polyacrylic for the light colored woods like maple and pine, as it doesn't yellow them like an oil-based finish will. I scuffed the finish between coats for better adhesion, and now you can really start to see how nice and deep and rich that color looks with a couple coats of polyacrylic on it. And so here is that walnut bowl that I carved. I went with a different design and different color on this one. My plan was to stain the outside of this bowl and again scrape away the edges so some of the wood would show through, but there was some mildew staining that formed on the inside of the sapwood and a big crack that happened when I dropped the bowl, so I ended up staining the inside of the bowl again to hide some of that. I'll just have to carve another one because I really think the effect of having that stain on the outside of the bowl would look really, really cool. And here's that pad that Minwax recommends using with the finish, and I did think it ended up leaving the smoothest finish between that, the brush, and the foam brush. Again, I'm going to use polyacrylic over the water-based stain, but then I'm going to move on to Minwax wipe-on polyurethane for the outside of the bowl. In my opinion, oil-based poly looks way better on darker woods like cherry and walnut, and I was careful not to overlap the 2 different top coats as they're not really compatible with each other. Well, everyone, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one.